I saw the arm of the bush get released upwards, as if something was holding it down. So I was staring at it, just trying to figure out, what the heck's going on here. A couple seconds later, what happened blew me away.
Welcome back to the Cryptid Creatures Podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Todd. What's happening, Brian?
Not much, man. Not much. Excited for this show tonight.
As always. You know what's interesting about this show coming up? Is
the fact that it's so close to us.
Again, we have another sighting so close to us.
Yep.
Where we live, we don't think about,
No, because there's nothing here.
We're kind of in some flat land in Indiana. And
we don't have mountains here. We don't have, we have some forest, but
I was thinking about this today. I was like, there's stuff north of us. There's stuff south of us. There's stuff east and west of us.
We are surrounded by a lot of water, though.
We are.
They are.
Maybe they're right here. Maybe they're right in our backyard. We just don't know.
Maybe they are, and we just don't know it. We're going to find out tonight.
We're going to be talking to a gentleman named Sam from, he had an experience in Cass County, Michigan.
That's right.
What is that, an hour away from here, maybe? For me, anyway.
Not even an hour. For you, it's even closer.
Right. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's right across the state line. Just jump right over there.
Right on. Well, you ready to bring him on?
Yeah. Let's get the show on the road.
Let's bring Sam on. Here we go.
It's exciting.
Sam, what's happening, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being on.
Glad you're here, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it 100%. Means a lot to us.
Sure thing. Yep.
So, Sam, I was talking to Brian earlier about your encounter and how close it is to where we are actually physically. We've had another encounter that happened the other direction, basically, of where you're directed or where your encounter happened of us.
We're actually probably about right in the middle of those two.
I would say so. I mean, you take 45 minutes to an hour, southeast is the one, and then 45 minutes to an hour south northwest would be where Sam had his encounter. So, So Sam, why don't you talk about? Tell us where you're from, what you thought about, the nature and what you did. Did you believe in Bigfoot? Have you ever heard of Bigfoot before that day, and what happened? And lead us up to the day, and then we can break into your situation and your encounter.
Yeah, sure thing. So, I was born and raised in the suburbs of Chicago, northwest suburbs. There's not really a whole lot of hiking out in this area. It's mainly suburbs and houses, not a whole lot going on here. But growing up, I was exposed to a lot of wilderness. We would take trips a lot. The topic of Bigfoot, it did settle in quite a bit, but, I never was 100% like, yes, this exists for sure. It was kind of just in the back of my mind. I would go out hunting and fishing, and I would never really think much of it. I always thought it was a possibility that it could exist, but obviously I never had any definitive proof. So as the years went by, I found out more about the topic. Started looking at the BFRO website, just kind of analyzing stuff and really considering the possibility that, these things could exist. I was starting to see clusters on the maps and of the sightings, and that's really when it started settling in more or less that, it's a possibility for sure. We took off on a vacation. One year, it was in August of 2018 when this happened. We took a vacation to southwest Michigan, where we rented a lake house on Diamond Lake in Cassopolis, Michigan. The lake itself is not in the actual town. It's probably about 15 minutes away from the actual town itself. I'll give you guys kind of a rundown of the geographics around the area, what it looks like. It's very rural around the area. It's not a bustling, city or anything like that. Outside of the lake, it's a lot of forest, a lot of farmlands, a lot of prairies. There's not really a whole lot to it. So the house we were staying in, obviously was on the lake, and I'm a big fisherman, so I was going on the lake trying to fish, but didn't have too much luck. Across the street, there was a river, and it was a very small river, very stagnant, not flowing, nothing like that. It was only probably about 15 to 20 feet wide and maybe about 4 feet deep. And across the river was deep woods. It was very thick vegetation. As you go up the bank, it was a lot of bushes, a lot of thorns, some trees here and there, which extended back into wetlands and swamps, forests, things of that nature. So that was really the start of it. I decided one day when my family was in the backyard, this happened on August 7th of 2018 at about 7 p.m. My family was in the backyard, still laying up by the pool, and I wanted to do some fishing. So I went across the street by myself, and I began fishing as I normally would. It was a beautiful day, sunny outside, no wind. Temperature was probably 85 degrees. And I had my fishing line get caught up in a knot. So I, took it out and I started to undo the knot. As I was doing that, for really no good reason at all, I just kind of looked to my right at about 2 o'clock across the river. Kind of one of those things where you're standing in a crowded room, you look across the room for no reason, and someone's looking right at you. It's one of those sort of things. Uh-huh. So I just looked over at 2 o'clock, and I saw the arm of a bush get released upwards, as if something was holding it down. So I immediately thought that's really weird because, number one, there's no wind. Number two, there's no people as far as I can see. And number three, it was pretty good off the ground. It was probably about 4 feet off where this branch was. So I was staring at it, just trying to figure out, what the heck's going on here. And a couple seconds later, what happened blew me away. This creature stood up on 2 feet. I never saw its face. It did this pivoting motion as it was standing up, so it really kept its face hidden from me at all times. What I did see was first the side of the creature, and then as it turned, I saw its back, its shoulders, its legs, not so much, just because of the fact there was really thick vegetation, as I mentioned. It took its first step with its left foot up the bank, and I saw its arms swing as it was moving. It was very, very fluid motion. This was not shuffling or moving around. It was very quiet, made almost no noise at all, and very fluid, like I mentioned. This thing took no more than 3 steps, and it covered a lot of ground in those 3 steps. I mean, the strides were long. And it disappeared into the forest. I mean, that's the last I saw of it. My first reaction was, honestly, I thought it was a huge person. This thing was the better part of 6.5 feet tall to 7 feet tall, I would say. Maybe a bit taller than 7 feet. It was large. Its shoulders were very wide. It had reddish brown hair. I was looking up animals, and I've been an avid hunter, and I was trying to compare, what it was the closest to in hair color. The thing I found it matched the most was an orangutan. Now, I've never seen one of those, being that I live in Illinois, but it did match an orangutan.
I'm pretty sure there's none in Michigan. So
Exactly. And I was trying to, immediately after I saw this thing, I was going on a mental checklist of what it could have been. I started with a deer, because it was the most common. Definitely not a deer. Fox, way too small, obviously, to match up to this creature, whatever it was. Beaver, no way. This thing was on 2 legs. I'm pretty sure there's no elk in that part of Michigan. Or no. I know there's no moose around there. Bear. If one did stray down there, bears don't walk like that. I've seen bears when I lived in Colorado, and it's very different. Even when they're standing on 2 legs, just very different. So yeah, this thing did retreat back into the woods. And once I had gone through this checklist in my head, then it kind of settled on me that I just saw something very strange. I couldn't explain it. So obviously my next thought was, I need to look around the area to see if there's any people here. Now, that spot across the river where I saw it was actually a little island, which I found out later by looking at satellite imagery. There's no way to get to it unless you have a kayak, or if you're willing to walk through that disgusting black water, which I wouldn't do. So I did search the area. There was no signs of people. Everything is quiet. Didn't hear any talking. Didn't find any kayak, any paddle boat, anything of that nature whatsoever. That's when it really, really hit me that whatever I just saw right here was, number one, real. Number two, cannot be explained. And number three was something that science tells us should not exist. I picked up my fishing pole and I walked to the backyard pretty stunned. I didn't want to tell my entire family right away because fear of ridicule, I guess you could say.
Did you know right there that you saw a Bigfoot then? Did you deduct that you saw a Bigfoot?
Yes. At that point in time, when I had gone through the whole checklist, I ruled out any animals, any people. At that point in time, yes, I did realize what I had seen. And it pretty much shook me to the core. When I say that I wasn't scared, when I saw this thing, I felt no sense of danger at all. I feel like it was observing me more than anything else. And to this day, I think about, did I walk up on it? Was it already there in the tree line, when I walked up trying to catch frogs, maybe to eat or something and get water? Or did it walk up on me when I was fishing to check me out, see what I was doing? Either way, I'll never know for sure what happened, who got there first. But what I can say is I do have a feeling it was watching me for quite a bit of time before I caught it, quote unquote, essentially. So anyway, I get back to the backyard and I had told my oldest brother, basically what I told him was I just saw something across the street. I described to him exactly what I had seen, just as I did right now to you guys. And at first he was like, okay, yeah, you probably saw something. What was it? I don't know. It was probably a deer, I think he said. And I kept telling him, I'm like, no. This was no deer. And I really expressed the seriousness of what I had seen. So later that night, we were sitting around the bonfire. Everyone had gone to bed. So it was just me and my oldest brother. We were sitting there. And he was doing research because obviously I was still talking about this. I couldn't get it off my mind. And he was doing research into the area. Turns out there is a creature in that area called the Dewey Lake Monster. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of the Dewey Lake Monster being so close to the area or not.
Is that Dewey Lake Monster?
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, so we found out that...
where is Dewey Lake? Is that close to?
Dewey Lake is on Dowagiac, Michigan, which was only about a 25-minute drive.
Yeah, that's not far.
No, yeah, it's not far at all. So,
Brian, those are your stomping grounds, aren't they? Pretty much.
But yeah, that area.
Yeah, so when he first found out that there was this legend in Dewey Lake area, Dowagiac, I mean he was like, Sam, you're never going to believe what I just found out. And we're not locals of the area. We have no idea about that area whatsoever. So he told me about it, and I was like, holy crap. Like, this is no joke, man. We were looking at it, and there's Facebook pages dedicated to it. There's articles on Google. You type in, from the local news station. And I'm like, dude, this matches up really close. It says it hangs out in swamplands, around lakes, in deep forest areas. And it pretty much matches what I saw, to an extent. So later that night, we were still sitting out by the bonfire talking, and we actually heard wood knocks coming from the swamp across the street, which I wasn't really too shocked by it, I guess. My brother was, because he's never experienced anything like this before. Now, he's an avid hunter as well. He lived in New Mexico for a while, so he's experienced in the wilderness. When he heard those wood knocks, still no wind. I want to make that very clear. There was no wind that'd be causing, this boom, boom sort of noise that we were hearing. And he was pretty blown away. And I told him, like, this is wood on wood. This is not, somebody clapping or whatever. This is wood being hit against wood. We heard it for probably a few minutes, tried to record, but it was just too far away across the street and into the swamps that I couldn't pick it up. So we ended up walking across the street with our flashlights, and by the time we got there, it had stopped. But I will tell you one thing, and I get chills thinking about it. There was a very strong sense of being watched when we were across the river, looking into the woods. There was an extremely strong sense of being watched, and that's not the only time I felt that. Going forward into my next experiences. So that's what happened in Michigan.
That's crazy, man. That's a weird experience as heck. I'm looking on the map here, trying to find dense areas around the lake you were on in Cass County and the Dowagiac area as well. And I'm seeing stuff, but normally I see like when it happens in towns like that are small or are similar. I'm noticing a pattern where there's a big patch of woods or a reservation or some kind of area where they could be secluded. But I'm seeing a couple spots, but nothing really big. Do you know if there's anything forestry-wise, landmass around there, or some kind of park or something close to those towns by chance, Sam? Or
most of Dowagiac is reservation.
Is it, Brian? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a Potawatomi Indian.
Okay, well, yeah. Now I'm looking. I didn't go there quite yet, but now when I zoom in that, and then go a little bit north of there too. Okay. I mean, it's definitely got water and a lot of trees there for sure. It's kind of spread out as the thing, and maybe that's why there's multiple.
There's definitely a lot of open land around there. I like driving around, checking out areas and stuff. So when I was out there, I wouldn't just go to the grocery store and back. I'd go drive around before I got to the grocery store and just check the area out, like I said. And it's definitely rural. There's a lot of pockets of forest. There's a lot of farmland. There are a lot of places that cover can be found in that area. Now, I can't, go into too much detail because I'm not from there. I don't really know too much except for what I saw.
Right.
Did you ever go back after that?
So we did. We actually went back there again in 2020. We took a year off in 2019, went back in 2020. And this was the first time I've been back there since, obviously, since I saw what I saw. I was really hoping to see it again. I really was. I spent a lot of time standing in pretty much the exact spot on the river, on this little creek, where I saw this thing doing the exact same thing, almost down and wearing the exact same clothes, hoping to get lucky again. And it just nothing ever happened. I never heard any wood knocks or anything like that. It was just very quiet and everything seemed normal. That feeling of being watched was gone. And it was just a one-time thing, I guess. I never got to see it again. I think it might have been passing through.
Probably could have been heading back to Dewey Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Could have. I mean, if that's where it came from,
yeah.
And why wouldn't he? If he's got a highway back and forth.
Yep.
Maybe
that's what I'm thinking happened.
Yeah, following the food, just like I say, all of them are doing. Follow the food.
Yeah, that's right. Did you ever think about going over and looking at see if it left any footprints, Sam?
I did. Just the only thing was I'm not a big fan of walking through water where I can't see my feet. I don't know. I just makes me uncomfortable. I've always been that way. And,
oh yeah, no, me too. Yeah, I'm with you.
yeah, and I don't know if there's any drop offs in this little creek. I don't want to be walking in 2 feet of water and all of a sudden go into a hole and be 6 feet.
Right. Yep.
So we didn't have a kayak or a paddle boat or anything to get across, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have loved to. But I never got a chance to. I did think about it, though.
And how old were you when this happened?
I was 23.
And did you say you did tell or you did not tell somebody after the incident? You told
the only person I told was my oldest brother.
Yeah.
So
how did you're from Chicago, how did you end up settling on little Podunk Cassopolis, Diamond Lake?
Well, my dad actually found this lake house that was for rent. He wanted to get a big family get together. I have a pretty big family, immediate family, 3 brothers, and then they have kids, so quite a bit of people. And he found this beautiful house that had a lot of room, a lot of space. And basically what happened was he rented it out, and we just had a big family get together for about 5 days. So that's how we found the place. I never expected my first sighting to be when I was wearing a bathing suit and flip-flops.
No one ever does.
Nobody's ever expecting their first sighting when it happens. You know what I mean?
There's been a lot stranger ones than that.
Had you been out looking for it, you'd never would have seen it.
Exactly. It's how it goes.
Yep.
Did you notice the smell? Did you say there was a smell when you saw this thing?
Not in that case. Not in that case, but in the experience that I had further on, I did notice a smell. But in Michigan, no. There was no smell.
How far away from you? How far away do you think he was from you?
It was close. It was probably about 25 to 30 feet.
But no wind that day, so...
This was like
close.
an up-close sighting. I mean, this thing was almost right on top of me.
Wow.
And you never noticed it until it moved.
No, that's the crazy part. I never noticed it at all. The only reason if it stayed still, I would never have seen it. It could have been in those bushes in the tree line of the shrubs, all day long, and I probably would have walked right past it. Only, I guess, the mistake it made, which you could say, was letting that tree branch go, which that's when I noticed the motion in the tree line causing me to look that way. And I think once it noticed that I had seen it, in a sense, that's when it was like, I'm getting out of here, and stood up and just walked away.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you weren't catching anything either, so.
I've been bye. Yeah.
Why would he stick around?
He was waiting for a free meal. Right. You catch, I eat.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good fish fry.
Exactly.
That's right.
Hey guys, it's Todd from Cryptid Creatures. Have you ever thought about making your own podcast? If so, you got to use Anchor. That's Anchor. The cool thing about Anchor is it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on multiple platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money on your podcast. The more people that listen, the more money you can make. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
So, Sam, you had a second experience that happened. I believe was it with your brother then?
No, so this was with a good friend of mine.
Okay. Why don't you walk us into that and tell us about that?
I would love to. Okay, so obviously we touched on, growing up, had an idea these things might exist. Fast forward to Michigan, saw one. Certain these things exist. Now I'm on the hunt for it. Okay, so now I know these things are real. I was explaining to my friend what had happened, and he was on the fence for sure. He was on the fence, kind of one of those guys like, well, I just don't get it if something this big is real, an 8 foot tall or 7 foot tall creature, how have we found anything of it, So we got into that whole debate, and I was like, Joe, I'll tell you, man, if we can go out, to an area, I'm sure that I can get some action and, you can experience something for yourself. And he said, sure, just one condition. And I said, yeah. And he's a very logical person. He says, I'm going to pick the location. You're not going to have any idea where it's at. I'm going to pick the location because I don't want you to set up anything. And I said, fair enough, man, absolutely. Right. Well, it turns out he picked a phenomenal location. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything better. This was ideal. This place is located in northwest Illinois along the Mississippi River, and there's a lot of open land out there. You have the river bottoms, a lot of coverage up in the bluffs. Then behind the bluffs is just forest in cornfields, mostly forest though, very thick forest. So the first time we go out there, we actually go to a very secluded area. I mean, the road to get there, it's a dirt road that goes up a steep hill. Thank God I drive a truck because I don't think a little tiny car can make it up that thing. And you leads you out to a second road. Then we made a right on that road, and we found this area to park at. Now we walked back into the woods, and I did notice some weird stuff. I noticed one structure, and I pointed out to him, and I said, "Look, this doesn't happen naturally." And I went through all the details. This log was number one pulled out of the ground. It was leaned up against this way, carried from a different location. There's no hole in the ground where this thing fell from. And as a matter of fact, there were one or two other logs, big trees, for a better word, just like that.
Wait, you saw uprooted?
Yeah, good.
You saw uprooted trees or logs stuffed in the ground? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so uprooted trees that were carried to that location from a different spot.
And there were
no holes.
Wow.
No holes in the ground from where they could have come out of, right there.
Oh, they were carried there. Okay.
Correct. And now horizontally up in this little structure was a huge log, probably 3 feet in diameter and maybe 6 to 8 feet across. And it was off the ground, probably about 10 feet up. That was wedged in between these other trees that were kind of forming a pyramid sort of deal. So I pointed this out to him. We looked higher up in the tree to see if this log could have broken off and fell down.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't see anything. So that's when he was starting to go, okay, that's pretty weird, but I need more. I need more. Like, yes, this is strange, but let's go see what else we can find. Now, there was this was a really weird part. There was, along this little path, one of the trees, now it's not a very thick tree. It's maybe about 4 inches in diameter, pretty thin, but it was bent over the whole path. So you essentially walk underneath the arch, and it was pulled down and stuck underneath a pile of branches that were brought there to hold this thing into place. So I looked at that and I'm like, okay, that's weird. Now we go further down this path. Off to our left, I see another possible structure. It was less defined than the first, but still possible. I never marked it off as a definitive structure. We kept going, and I started doing wood knocks. It didn't take long at all for wood knocks to get returned. Now, this area is rural. I looked at it on Google Earth before I jumped to any conclusions. Because I always think there's only 2 creatures in the forest that can make a wood knock, that can pick up a log and smack it against a tree. Number 1 is a human. Number 2 is Bigfoot. So right. I want to rule out, could this be a human? Given how rural the area was, there's only one way in, one way out. No houses around there. Lots of thorns. I mean, I wouldn't have the fun time walking through that stuff. And number 2 is, I don't know who would even get to that location without driving a car. There were no cars there. It's the only spot to park at. So right there, I marked it off as this can't be a person doing this. We had wood knocks coming pretty much all night. We were out there until we left. Then as we were walking out, this is where it gets weird. So it's getting to be pretty dark. We're walking out, and as we get closer to the first structure that we had seen walking in, we hear whooping noises coming from like 3 different directions. Now, it sounded kind of like a whoop, 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 sort of like that sort of thing, but it was coming from 3 or 4 different spots around us. I'll quote what my friend said. He said, "It sounds like we're in the rainforest with monkeys." And I go, yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. And it kept getting louder and louder until we got the hell out of there, really.
What was he doing at that time then? So he's kind of a non-believer, right? Or he was? He
was a non-believer.
So he picks this area saying, you're not going to set me up. I'm going to pick the area. We're going to go here. He obviously knows how you maybe taught him how to pick a good area. So you got to pick a dense forest area, something like that, I'm guessing, or he did on his own. And so you guys experienced these whoops and all this knocking and all this stuff. And what's he doing at this time then, at this point?
He started to walk faster. Yeah, he started to walk faster. And I think we actually started a slow jog, if I remember correctly. It was getting louder and louder. And we just couldn't explain it until we passed a certain point. That's when it stopped. And at that point, we're like, dude, yeah, let's get back to the truck and head out, man. Mm-hmm. We got back to the truck and we left. We were talking about it. What I personally think was, I think it was a lot of juvenile Sasquatches, personally. I mean, these whoops did not sound like anything I've heard. I mean, we have coyotes in my backyard every night, man. And they yelp, they're loud. Definitely not even close to that in tone or, anything of that nature. Definitely not 3 owls or 4 owls hooting at once all around us. That wasn't the case. Loons, definitely not a loon. Again, I'm going on this mental checklist. And I can't explain these howls. I can just tell you what they sounded like and what I believe they were. I do think they were juvenile Sasquatches, for sure. So as we were driving back, it's about a 2.5 hour drive from my house. I mean, he picked a really far location, but I'm glad he did. So we said that next time we go back, I'm going to leave a recorder running the entire time. The entire time. From the second we get out of the truck until the second we get back in the truck and shut the door, that recorder is going to be on. So we were walking, and we get back there a second time, and we noticed that once we got to a certain point on the trail, there was a really bad smell. I mean, really bad. I thought something had died and was rotting, next to the trail somewhere. And I'm like, dude, that smells awful. Like, it smelled like dead meat, really. That's the best way I can put it. So I'm like, man, what is that smell? So I started kind of walking around and looking through the brush and going into the forest a bit. And I'm like, there's nothing here. That's really strange. They even told him, like, do you smell that? He's like, yeah, it smells terrible. Yeah, something died here. But we never found it. So we start walking back, and we notice that the structure that was there last time was knocked to the ground, which was weird. It was really weird. It was knocked down. The logs were thrown everywhere. And I'm like, okay, that's strange. So didn't think much of it. Walked probably another half mile in, and we started doing wood knocks. And at that point, it did take a bit longer that time to get some responses. I think they were kind of catching on, maybe. We went for about 30 minutes without hearing anything until finally we get a response. And it was very subtle at first. And we, I think it was like 2 or 3 knocks. Then I do 2 or 3 knocks back. And it was actually getting closer this time, which really freaked me out. Unfortunately, the knocks were too quiet for an iPhone to pick up. Just how the recorders are on those things, not the best of quality.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I agree.
Yeah,
Brian
definitely.
does too, don't you, Brian? Brian's not an iPhone fan.
They're a pain, man. They really are.
I have an
stay out there. Yeah, so we stayed out there for quite a bit, just doing wood knocks, going back and forth with this thing. And it started getting dark again, so we were walking out. And as we were walking out, I noticed a bone that was stuck up in a tree. Now, there's a little nook coming off the tree. Pine trees, they have like those little things coming out, like sticks or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know what to say. I really didn't know what the heck to say, because there was a bone stuck up in the tree. The bone had a hole in it. I don't know what kind of bone it was. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. But it had a bone. It had a hole in there. And this thing, whatever it was, put that bone through that stick sticking out of the tree to the point where it was just there.
Was it a vertebrae? Could it have been a vertebrae bone of an animal?
Possibly. Definitely could have been.
How big was the bone?
The bone was probably, I would say the circle part of it, the top, was maybe 2.5 to 3 inches. And then there was a straight part that came down that was probably 3.5 to 4 inches.
It's not a vertebrae.
I don't know what it was.
What is it, Brian? Do you know?
Could have been an arm bone, could have been a leg bone.
Yeah, so
vertebrae are only 2 or 3 inches tall.
Of a human.
And about that big around. Animals aren't any different.
Maybe it wasn't a... Okay, anyway, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, sure thing. So we actually stopped, and we were looking at this bone that was up in the tree. And I'm a very observant person, I would like to think, at least. I mean, maybe I'm not if I didn't notice a bone in the tree right there coming in. But I don't think it was there when we were walking in. I feel like it's something I would have noticed because it was right on the path. I mean, this thing was strategically placed to face towards the path so you would see it. What the message was behind this, I have no clue, but I actually
took the fuck out.
Yeah, basically. Basically, I don't want to be, have part of my bones sticking up in the tree later on.
That's right.
So.
Yeah.
This might be your bones next time.
Would be.
Yeah, exactly. So we were stopped there and we were looking at it, and I'm like, all right, Joe, is this the part where I say I told you so? Because, we have the wood knocks, we have the tree structures, now we have a bone up in the tree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will give you the opportunity to explain to me how this could all be dismissed. And that's when he just kind of shook his head and goes, Sam, I think you're really proving a strong case.
Okay.
And I'm like, remember, Joe, you picked the spot, not me, bud.
Yeah.
Made a believer out of him, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely start off very, very skeptical. So I took a couple photos of that of the bone up in the tree, and as we were looking at it, then it was getting pretty dark. So we started to move again. Still had maybe a quarter mile left, maybe half mile to get to the truck. Again, the recorder was still going at this time. So we start walking, and this was the scariest moment I've ever had in the woods in my life. I've been up in the mountains of Colorado at night, with mountain lions and bears. I've been all over the place, man. And this was the most scared I'd been. Out of nowhere, we hear the loudest howl that I've ever heard. I don't know what the heck this was. I was so scared that I thought this thing was going to be, I thought I was going to turn around and see a monster. I'll just put it that way. I thought I was going to see a monster standing like right on top of us. I immediately drew my handgun. I mean, and I never draw my handgun unless I feel an absolute need to, but this was one of those times where split-second decision, didn't even have to think about it. That gun was coming out of the holster, and I turned around, and I was holding my handgun, and I was ready for whatever, was going to happen next. We never saw anything, which is the weird part. But as I was walking out, you could hear in the recording, our pace number one picks up. You can hear the start of the recording before the howl, walking, it's normally howl happens. After the howl happens, some profanity is said just because of what happened.
Sure.
And you hear our footsteps starting increasing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we were really freaked out for sure. And we started walking backwards, and just kind of waiting for something else to happen, which it never did. But yeah, so as we're walking back, I don't know if it was my eyes playing tricks on me or not, but I do have a flashlight on the bottom side of the barrel of my handgun.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we're walking out, I was keeping my flashlight trained, behind me. I was walking backwards. And, man, I don't know what this was. It could have been, the adrenaline going. My senses are all hyped up or spiked up, whatever you want to call it. But I swear to God, I saw a black figure cross the path from right to left very quickly. And I swear I saw it even bounce, like, boom, boom, like that,
Mm-hmm.
Running across. But, again, it was out of the range of my flashlight. So all I saw was a possible silhouette. It did come from the same side the howl happened on, that which I can say. So I don't know
that could have been.
it was.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that could have been.
How far away do you think the thing that made that noise was, Sam?
Oh, man, it sounded like it was right behind me.
Mm-hmm.
It really did. I'm guessing it was maybe 10 to 15 yards away from us.
That close.
Wow, that's close.
Yeah. But that's what it sounded like. It could have just been really freaking loud to the point where it sounded that close. It could have been even half a football field away,
Yeah.
But
Right.
it sounded like it was right there. It's hard to say for sure because I never saw the creature. But, man, that was the loudest howl I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, that was crazy. That was absolutely crazy.
Wow. Yeah, that would have been something. Man.
Yeah, and I have not been back there since. I'll go back to the spot in Michigan where I saw the thing any day of the week and stand there all day long, or all night long. I don't care. But that spot, no, I don't care how loaded my handgun is, man. I'm not.
So you're telling me that you were more terrified of not seeing one than you were when you did see one. Basically,
Yes.
you didn't feel any fear at all when you saw the one you saw at the lake.
No, not at all. It felt, actually like a very peaceful encounter. Almost there was like a mutual understanding sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
This other thing in Northwest Illinois was just, it had a whole different feel to it. There's one important part I left out that I want to go back to. So we did go back there one more time, which I totally forgot about. And when we went back there, we didn't stay nearly as long, number one. Didn't let night fall on us, number two. Number three, didn't go as deep in the woods. we were so freaked out, man. Like, we went back probably 25% of the ways we usually do. What we noticed was the area kind of getting up to where the howl happened. There was like a 30-foot by 30-foot section of the forest that was just ripped apart. Totally ripped apart. You had branches ripped down. You had trees thrown. You had it looked like chaos. It looked like a tornado had hit that one little section of the forest.
How long had it been between the first time and the second time you went back?
1 week at the very most. 5 days, 6 days.
So either you really pissed them off or somebody else went out there and pissed them off.
Yes, one of the two. This thing was mad. It was not happy with us. So that's a detail I forgot to mention. But anyway, it was just totally torn apart. Just that little stretch, and there was no severe weather that week at all. No, not even a thunderstorm, if I recall correctly. So something went in there and just ripped it apart.
What time of year was that?
This was late August, early September.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you guys check for any footprints in that area? Did you look for any footprints? Was it?
We did. The thing is that the ground there is pretty hard, so we did find some possible footprints. We found one possible bigger one, and then another possible juvenile print. Nothing was, oh my God, that's a print for sure, but it looked like it could have been something had stepped there. But like I said, the ground's really hard, and it's not the best spot for finding footprints. There's not a whole lot of wet mud or wet sand.
Right.
Or anything
I was
like
just going
that.
to ask you how the ground is there.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to capture a footprint or track in, unfortunately. But Todd, as you said, I was way more scared of this just because of the fact that it was so aggressive, really. I mean, you had a structure that was torn on the ground. You had wood knocks that were pretty aggressive in nature, too. It wasn't like a subtle boop or anything. It was pretty aggressive. You had a bone stuck up in a tree. You had the howl happen that did not have a friendly tone behind it. Let me tell you that much. That was not something like, oh, man, I want to figure out what that howl was. That was a howl saying, get out of my house, basically. It got the job done, for sure.
So you would say, Sam, you would say 100% you believe that Bigfoot is real.
100%. Tell you, man, when you least expect it, that's when something's going to happen. No doubt.
Right.
Yep, for sure. It's usually when it does.
Yep. It's never when you're looking for them necessarily, but sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward. I think this year I am going to get back out there. Just overcome that fear and just...
What are you thinking about going this time?
Well, you keep us in mind in case you run into them again.
Right. What are you thinking about going this time? Same place or?
Yeah, same spot for sure. This was by far the best spot I've ever been at. I tried to do wood knocks in Colorado. You would think that up in the mountains there'd be no shortage of activity. Surprisingly, I never found anything.
Yeah, in Colorado, even on the BFRO, the Colorado's not real hot.
Yeah, didn't get anything out there.
Really, it's not.
No, they have hardly any sightings out there in Colorado. At least none reported.
Too much snow.
Yeah. I think
I think it's elevation.
Not enough caves.
I think
and
it's
also
just,
the area is so vast. I mean, one mountain itself is huge, and there's really no way to get to it.
Yeah.
So these things have all the
so they could be there, and maybe just never have been discovered there yet.
Exactly.
Or if somebody has, they've been too scared or to say anything.
Yep, definitely.
Hard to say.
Yeah, Colorado is sparse when it comes to sightings.
Yeah.
Illinois is actually really good, surprisingly.
That is surprising.
Yeah.
The western side, right? Is that what you said?
What's that?
The western side?
Yep. Yeah, the western side and down west central Illinois.
What's that by? Is that by Idaho? What's that? What's on the other side of it? Not Idaho. I mean Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa, and then you have Missouri, which is down south, and up above Iowa is Minnesota. So we were pretty close to Iowa at this spot.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll definitely keep you guys in mind, man. Definitely going to get back out there for sure this year and go fully loaded. Hopefully, I don't have to use my gun. That's one of the biggest.
I hope not.
I don't go out there with my handgun hoping to have to use it. I go out there with my handgun for my own protection.
Protection, yeah.
You may want to carry something bigger if you have it. I just saying. I don't know.
Yeah, if you got a rifle, you might want to carry that.
Yeah, or another handgun for sure. But yeah, be safe out there. Don't antagonize, of course, as we all would not do. But anyway,
yeah, it doesn't seem like the friendliest group of Bigfoots out there. Let's just put it that way.
There seems to be aggressive kinds, and there seems to be non-aggressive kinds. I don't know, but you just don't know what you're going to deal with out there.
Yeah, that's what I've been picking up. Mm-hmm.
That howl was just really bizarre. You could just tell. I don't even have to speak the Bigfoot language to know what it was trying to tell me when I heard that howl.
It's crazy.
So, it was very territorial.
It was calling in the troops.
Yeah, and I got out of there way before that happened, thankfully. Right, I'm glad it happened so close to the truck.
Yeah, right. Instead of like 3 miles in.
Right.
Oh, dude, I would have been. That's as fast I would have run in my entire life.
We may not be having this conversation right now.
Possible.
Seriously, yeah.
Well, Sam, we appreciate you coming on the show, man. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, man,
sharing your experience.
This is a great.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. And if you're out there and see something else, you got to get a hold of us and get back on here for sure and talk about that.
Yeah, let us know and take us there.
Yeah, we'll do. I mean,
we're not far from each other.
I'm glad to share what I find. I'm a very logical kind of person that rules out stuff. So any stuff that I do capture, any stuff that I share is passes my test, quote unquote. So I'm always happy to get evidence out there and just make sure it's quality. And I'll be happy to get a hold of you guys again if I find anything.
You do that for sure, Sam. That. We appreciate it.
Sure.
All right, bud.
Absolutely.
Once again, take care. We'll be in touch.
Yep. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
All right. Take care, bud.
Yep.
All right, Brian. That was another awesome episode in the books. What do you think, man?
Man, that was a great show. His stories were awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I think everybody's going to love that.
Yeah, that was really cool. We appreciate all the support again, guys. We're close to 1,000 listens out there. The group's growing, and just again, thanks for listening. If you want to be a guest on the show or you have a story to share, get a hold of us at info@cryptidcreatures.co, not com, just co. Brian, how else can they get a hold of us?
We got our Instagram at cryptid_creatures. We got our Twitter at cryptidcreature1. There's no E on the end of creature, just cryptidcreature1. And Facebook, Cryptid Creatures.
And Instagram.
Page and group.
Yep. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Next time. Until then, Brian, take care, bud.
If you're out in the woods, checking everything out, keep your eyes and ears open. Let us know what you hear.
Right on. Take care. We'll see you next time.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
See you.